The assassination of Hugo Chavez. On August 26, 2005, the Lord spoke to his servant on cable television, and his servant told the faithful watching in TV land,
Hugo Chavez thinks we're trying to assassinate him. I think we really ought to go ahead and do it.
Reverend Pat Robertson has a tough time with the separation of church and hate. But Pat Robertson is not crazy. He is, in fact, one of the most ingenious, uncrazy men I've ever met, and the most calculating and viperous. Those who dismiss him as some corn-pone, Bible-thumping Elmer Gantry fruitcake have dangerously underestimated him and his reach into political and financial power centers in Washington and abroad. He never speaks for himself. Whether he speaks for God, I can't say, but certainly Dr. Robertson uses his television platform to preach the evangel of the elite to which he was born. His father, Senator Absalom Willis Robertson, was the mentor of Senator Prescott Bush.
I'm not a televangelist, he told me. I'm a businessman.
And when he spoke of taking down Hugo Chavez, president of Venezuela, Robertson was all business. The hit the Reverend proposed was calculated for risks and rewards like any investment.
It's a whole lot cheaper than starting a war, and I don't think any oil shipments will stop. This is a dangerous enemy to our south, controlling a huge pool of oil that could hurt us very badly. We don't need another $200 billion war. It's a whole lot easier to have some of the covert operatives do the job and then get it over with.
When I met with President Chavez in Caracas in April 2002, he offered to write the introduction to the Spanish translation of my last book. I'm not crazy about politicians endorsing journalists, but I agreed on condition he meet the deadline. He'd have to write it before he's dead. Chavez wasn't overly concerned. It's a game of chess, Mr. Palast, and I'm a very good chess player. He's more than that. He is, as Robertson says, a dangerous man. But dangerous to whom?
Mr. Beale, the Arabs have taken billions of dollars out of this country, and now they must put it back. It is ebb and flow, tidal gravity.
In October 2005, Hugo Chavez defied gravity and withdrew $20 billion of Venezuela's petrodollars from the United States Federal Reserve and deposited the money in an account with the International Bank for Settlements for investment in Latin America.
There are no third worlds. There are no nations, Mr. Beale. There's only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon.
Maybe. At the beginning of 2001, Venezuela instituted a new law of hydrocarbons. Henceforth, Exxon, British Petroleum, and Shell Oil, the major oil extractors in Venezuela, would get to keep only 70% of the sales revenues from the Venezuelan crude they sold. The oil majors had grown accustomed to their usual take, 84%. The reaction to the reduction in big oil's share of the Venezuelan pie was swift. Otto Reich, Bush's Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemispheric Affairs, met with Venezuelan dissident billionaires, and shortly after, on April 11, 2002, Chavez was kidnapped. The president of Venezuela's Chamber of Commerce, an oil industry lawyer, declared himself president of the nation, giving a whole new meaning to the term corporate takeover. The coup d'etat against the elected president, Chavez, was endorsed by the New York Times. On April 12th, banking and oil industry chiefs held an inaugural party in Venezuela's presidential palace. The U.S. ambassador rushed down to have his picture taken with his arms around the partying coup leaders. But within 24 hours, the party was over. I learned later that Chavez, geopolitical grandmaster, had expected the coup and planted commandos inside secret passages of the presidential palace. When informed that Chavez had secretly moved his knights into kill position, the partygoers took off their custom-made presidential sashes and costumes and returned the real president to his desk without bloodshed within 48 hours of his capture. The Times apologized. But not the White House. Bush's spokesman conceded Chavez was democratically elected, but he added, quote, legitimacy is something that is conferred not just by a majority of the voters. I see.